our theme music.
Ghislaine Maxwell's father has everything to do with the way our country looks today. Don't jump me, I can prove it. Robert Maxwell met Donald Trump 2 years after Donald Trump had visited Moscow and St. Petersburg on the KGB's dime. And there's photographic evidence of Robert Maxwell meeting Donald Trump in 1989 in the wheelhouse of Robert Maxwell's yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, where he would mysteriously be found unalive just a few years later. We know for a fact that Robert Maxwell was a triple agent. And let me just interject real quickly to say that the FBI knew that Robert Maxwell was a triple agent beginning in 1958. He worked for the British Secret Service Intelligence, the Mossad, and the KGB. Quickly interrupting again. Yes, Robert Maxwell's ties to the Mossad are so important because Robert Maxwell had massive influence in the 1948 Nakba. Robert Maxwell smuggled in aircrafts and weapons into the blue and white state and also rallied for other countries who he was attached to throw their support behind the blue and white state in the 1948 Nakba. If it wasn't for Robert Maxwell's actions, the blue and white state would have never have gained air supremacy in the Middle East. Robert Maxwell was also very friendly with the former prime minister of the blue and white state. The blue and white state was so grateful to Robert Maxwell that when he passed away, they buried him as if he were a hero. Not only was Robert Maxwell a triple agent, he was the owner of multiple major publishing companies, including New York Daily News, the Daily Mirror, and MTV in Europe. So he not only was a triple agent, he also had major say in whatever was coming out of these major publishing companies. He worked simultaneously with all these different governments. He would take the information and present it however best fit whatever country's narrative that was paying him the most money, right? A true minister of propaganda. But see, Robert Maxwell was how Donald Trump met Ghislaine and Jeffrey. We also know that it is extremely likely that Jeffrey was at the very least working as an agent for the Mossad. And Robert Maxwell in his lifetime was hugely respected. Here's a photo of Robert Maxwell with King Charles and Prince William as a toddler. Here's a photo of Robert Maxwell and Rupert Murdoch, the man behind Fox News. Okay, last time I'm interrupting, I promise. So one other connection I need to talk about is the connection between Robert Maxwell and Mikhail Gorbachev, the last president of the Soviet Union, who was virtually couped out of power in August of 1991. But there are some reports that indicate that Robert Maxwell, despite having a long-time chummy friendship with Mikhail, was involved in this coup against him. And you guys might remember the name Mikhail because we talked about him in the Elon Musk deep dive. This is the same man who presented Elon Musk with an environmental award for Tesla, and he was also president of the Soviet Union during the horrible catastrophe of Chernobyl. Like we've talked about before, the Soviet Union's response to Chernobyl was a perfect example of how technocratic governments will always fail the people. And because Mikhail Gorbachev and other leaders believed that it was more important to not allow the Soviet Union to look weak, they decided to keep literal nuclear fallout a secret from the world, which caused so much harm. And then he rebranded and became besties with Ronald Reagan and became an environmentalist. I don't like that guy. Robert Maxwell certainly saw him as a useful person to keep around until he wasn't. Donald Trump visiting Moscow and St. Petersburg for the first time with Ivana in 1987. To then just 2 years later, Donald Trump being in the wheelhouse of the Lady Ghislaine and Robert Maxwell, who is a proven operative for the KGB, who ushers in his daughter and her boyfriend into Donald Trump's life, and they get all of the inside information. They probably gather some blackmail that could be used on Donald Trump. You cannot see, at the very least, that the KGB and the Mossad had a fly on Donald Trump's wall, or had him on a very short leash, starting from the 80s, they successfully groomed him into a politician who will do whatever they want if he is flattered enough and if he is given enough money. Because they know not only is he weak when it comes to flattery, Russia believed from the beginning that Donald Trump was intellectually vulnerable. Of course, he sits in the White House. If he would have lost to Kamala Harris, a lot of people would have lost out on a 40-year investment. That all began to really ramp up after Robert Maxwell came into his life and introduced him to his daughter and her boyfriend. This has been a lot longer in the making than anyone realizes.